Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 20th, 2022 at approximately 8:32 p.m. PST. Well, things are getting interesting in this world, and it really is time that we start working with each other to make this a better world for everybody, or for virtually everybody. Now, I've talked about this idea of goals and what have you, and things are progressing. I'm very happy to report that the end of an Epoch is starting to sell. I sent out the first of the books this morning to people that have already bought them. Now, the reality is the first 30 books that I put in print are always limited edition. Okay. And they've started going, so I am going to run out of them hopefully in the very near future. But this is just one of the goals I've got. Okay, when you think about it, like I said, I'm working on 12 goals. Just looking for what I did with them. There we are. 2 of the 7 I already had are already on the way into production. Okay, but I did discover, and I'm still working on which way they're going to come out. But you pick goals that you personally desire to change. Now, as you can see, my day has been a little on the hectic side, which is why I've got stuff sitting here. Okay, it tends to go there during the day, and I get cleaned off before the end of the night. It's just an idea. But if you're not happy with the way your life is running, now is the time to change it, and you're the only one in existence that can change it. Well, that's not entirely correct, but you're the only one in existence that can change it and subsequently be successful for you. Somebody else can come along and destroy something of yours and change it that way. But let's focus on the pleasant side of things. Okay, now I've talked about this issue of how society has gone sideways, but I'm also noticing that more and more people are paying more attention to the things that are going on that are positive. Okay, and this is the key to actually succeeding. Okay, to making things a better world. Is we've got to look at the things that are working from a beneficial standpoint and really maximize the positive. If you see somebody doing something good, come right out and tell them in public as loud as is functional. So that other people know that this person is doing something right. If they're doing something that's a problem, okay, do your best to keep the idea minimal. To keep the negative side of it minimal. This is literally an issue of deciding how you desire things to go. Now, I'm just going to see if I've got what I think I've got here. Book 5, not there. Book 5, there we are. Right now, okay, because of the way that my writing works, because I interlock all of the books in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, right now I've had to go back to book 5 to write a chunk in there that applies to the forward motion of book 12. This is why they're all coming out and they're all getting worked on at the same time. Because what I found is they interlock. Okay, still haven't quite decided. Of course, I only asked a couple of days ago as to which trilogy should come out next. The Latter Years is the one that's just about complete. I've already got the artwork, the cover artwork done for the final book. Okay, and I'm working on the other things. As a matter of fact, I've got a number of things I got to do tonight. But you take the energy in your office. Okay, while I'm working, it gets a little cluttered. By the time I go to bed tonight, this will all be cleared out of the way, so I can start again clear tomorrow. Okay, which is why I have this list of skills. No, I just got finished gaming. This is why I have a list of chores to do today. Okay. Now, the nice little part about it is when you focus on the things that are working, when you focus on the things that you're content with, you can make phenomenal headway. But it is up to you to make that headway. Now, I'm going to turn our attention for the moment to what the medical profession is starting to do. Now, I just heard something just yesterday, I think, about this whole COVID thing. Okay, apparently, at least on my end of the world, apparently everybody that gets a hint of COVID doesn't necessarily end up getting the vaccine right away. Because what they seem to be doing is targeting not just the low, they're targeting the real severe cases, which tells me that that mankind is developing its own immunities to it. Its own body is being able to cope with it a little more. Now, this does not mean that mankind is doing everything right by any stretch. I'm still seeing a staggering amount of greed, a staggering amount of instant gratification, which is causing problems. And this is what we have to really push together and slow down. Now, I've mentioned I play Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, well, tonight I discovered something interesting. Okay, the character I'm building, for me, gaming kind of emulates reality. When I get something moving in a gaming character, something happens in my real life. Okay, so I've got a character right now. As a matter of fact, where is he? And apparently it's not right where I thought it was, where I had suggested it get put. Well, that is annoying or disappointing or something like that. And he didn't put it back where it belongs. So that's okay, I'll find that later. Anyway, the character that I've built, okay, is a character that now, although he does have some negative traits, is starting to build businesses. And this is the same thing I'm looking at. You see, I figured out a way that, bearing in mind that when you're talking business and you're talking advertising, the number one, as far as I understand it, the number one method of advertising around the world is word of mouth. Okay. And I finally figured out a way, I figured it out a long time ago, but I figured out a way to actually track word of mouth advertising whereby it can actually be paid for. But it does require work. Okay. When the reality is karmic law number 3, energy out, energy in. If you desire your world to really turn for the better, take a look at what you're doing and do what you can to really enhance the positive side. If you're getting help from other people, absolutely acknowledge them. Okay. From my standpoint, the way I look at it, when you're talking about word of mouth advertising, I deal with one person. If that one person sends somebody to me, okay, I'd never have the second person without running into the first one. So obviously the credit has to go there. Well, the funny part about it is if you take a look at it, if you track that kind of thinking, then what happens is you go 6 months down the road and word starts spreading out via word of mouth. If you're tracking it properly, then what you end up with is figuring out that John Doe, the first one you talk to, is responsible for these 100 people that have come to you. And that is the backbone of trying to keep an eye on how things work. Now, we can take a look at how bad the world has been, how really corrupt it's gotten, and rest assured it has. We are dealing with a staggering amount of greed, a staggering amount of self-gratification. Okay, with very little comprehension or apparent comprehension to how much damage we're doing to each other. And this is why it is so important to look to the people that you're dealing with and really do your best to point out what they're doing that is working. If you're running a business, telling your staff what they're doing that is positive is so much more effective than continually telling them what they're doing that's wrong. Because they will focus on the things you're telling them. But if you're telling them what they're doing wrong, they will get depressed, they will stop working properly, and you'll have headaches like you wouldn't believe. If you're constantly telling them what they're doing right, if that's where your emphasis is, they will pay more attention to it, they will be working harder to produce properly, and to be of benefit, if you will. Okay, net result, you end up with a much higher level of prosperity in your business. Kind of an important thing in my eyes. So, when we take a look at that side of it, okay, and yeah, we seem to be a little scattered today. When you're looking at belief structures, if you focus on the negative, because of the karmic law, energy out, energy in. If you're focusing on and you're promoting the negative things that are happening around you, this is simply going to draw more attention to them. It's going to feed more energy to them. Not necessarily the best option. Okay. When you take a look at your life and you identify what you're content with, you focus on that. Okay. Stay on track to the things you're content with. Okay. But make certain that you still take into consideration what you're not content with and start altering those things. Because I'm altering the things you're not content with. If you do that, all you're left with when all is said and done is a world that you're content with, a world that's worked out the way you desire it to work out. Because the neat part about it is you actually create your own future. You're the one that creates the way your world works. Yes, it's going to take the assistance of other people. Absolutely it is. But it can be done. Now, for me, where it comes to writing, I don't know if you can see me. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I can see them. Nope. Well, sort of. Okay. I've dug a bunch of files out there back on top of my calendar. And like I said, I've been working in the office today. So the office is a little bit of disarray, but that's because it's being worked in. When I get done this video, I will clear the whole thing off. So when I go to bed, when I go to bed, it's all shut down properly, and I can come in and start with a clean table. Okay, that is critical in order to make your life work right. Okay, because and the whole reason behind that, this sign way up here that says how does it go there? I am worth it. Those 4 words are the 4 most powerful words in the spoken language, in any spoken language I've heard. Okay, where it comes to helping motivating yourself towards success, towards bringing your self-esteem up, towards bringing your self-motivation up. It's your job to do that. Absolutely, turn to the people around you to get their input. But you're still going to have to be doing the work. Okay, there is a lot of change that is happening in this world right now. And I'm happy to say that I am seeing things shift in a positive fashion. People are starting to realize that you have to work together in order to make this world a better place. But it starts with your own home. Okay. The trick with it is find something that holds your attention in a positive fashion and work with that. Okay. If you've got kids, one of the responsibilities you have is to turn around and ensure that your kids are capable of supporting themselves, that their future is taken care of. Okay. It is a kind of important little factor in case you hadn't noticed. Just got a list here of things I really have to deal with. So I figured I'd check them off while it was at it. But we have to realize if we keep talking about fear, about worrying about what the next is going to go wrong, if that's what you're looking at, you're going to get really, really depressed, in all likelihood. Now, I've been fighting my own issues with the stress and couldn't quite figure out why I was having such a problem with this whole mess. This whole COVID thing has been a disaster in so many ways. But for me, it's been particularly problematic because in my case, never mind reading about the Black Death, Never mind studying it in history, in your social classes or in your history classes, or for that matter, personal research. Back during the Black Plague, I was a coroner. I had a wonderful family. I had a wife and 2 kids. When the Black Plague hit, we found out about it. We got word that about 150 miles north of us was a little town, and in all fairness, I forget the name of the river of the town I was living on. Right, but we got word about 150 miles north the Black Plague had hit, and we were worried. So, being a coroner, there were four other coroners, 3 other coroners. There were 4 of us in all in this little city. Okay, and it was tight fitting. When the Black Plague hit, right, when the Black Death hit, all of us started to try and build coffins left, right, and center. Because we knew that this was going to hit hard. We'd already gotten word. Well, we started building, and the problem that we ran into was we couldn't build them fast enough. Well, the Black Plague hit, and you know the bits and pieces of the story. Okay, you know what you've read in the record books. But I'll tell you, the horror that we went through, nobody knew how to stop it. Nobody knew how to slow it down. Nobody even had a clue what was causing it. So we had friends and family. Everybody was dropping dead. We were losing it at a 2-to-1 ratio. In my village in particular, we lost at a 3-to-1 ratio. We lost 75% of the people in my town, including my wife and my 2 kids. Not to mention every friend that I had, pretty much. But I found an interesting sidetrack to that. 2 of the coroners actually ended up dropping dead from the Black Death. Okay, in my case, I survived. Well, as it turned out, I was immune. As was a former adversary of mine. That former adversary and I became very good friends during the next 4 years. Because we would sit down and we sort of joked about it. It was a serious thing, but you got to realize, with the amount of death that was going on, finding something to help you take it lightly was extremely important. It was sometimes the only way we could cope. So I remember sitting in the tavern with him one day, and he came in. He was looking pretty down in the mouth. I said, "What happened there?" He goes, I lost another employee today. Ow. Sorry about that. Anyway, he goes, "I lost another one of my employees today. The Black Death took him." I never even thought about it. I was sitting there drinking my ale. I said, "Wait a minute there, boss. You didn't lose your employee." He goes, "I did so. He's dead." I said, "Yeah, but you know where he is." Right, well, he took that kind of lightheartedly, and we had a good chuckle about that. And this was just the way things went. We started laughing about it a little, and I tell you, if you think back, way back in the 70s, there was a series out called Monty Python. And if you're my age, you may well have seen it. It was just a skit on Monty Python, where they showed them walking down through the streets, calling out, "Bring out your dead, bring out your dead." This was a normal thing for us. Okay, but my buddy and I, we got together. We got a little creative with it. And it's like, we just stopped talking about "bring out your dead." And I literally called out one day. I said, "Scrap it. Tell your dad to get out here." Right. And people looked at us. It's like, you're being a little callous. No, I just don't feel like dragging them all out here. They're dying too fast. Of course, my buddy's walking along there with another cart. And he joined in. And next thing we knew, people were joking about the fact that we were losing so many. It's not that it was funny that so many people were dying, but it was the only way that we could cope because there was so much sorrow. You had to find something to break the ice a little, you know. And I mean, if you think it's bad today, the reek that we had to deal with because we couldn't get the bodies out of the way fast enough, so we had all the decomposition going on, right? But where it can, in all fairness, the good news from our end, we didn't change our prices, right? We still charge the same, but on the plus side, the local government at the time the mayor had turned around and said, "No, carry on. We'll make sure you get reimbursed." And basically, what it boiled down to is the government decided that for us, they would bring the wood in for us, so we didn't have to buy it. We saved a lot of money that way, and we still got paid for the work that we did, but at least we didn't have the overhead. Now, you got to remember, all businesses require an income. You've got to have a give and take. There has to be, you've got to be able to make money or you can't do it. Well, of course, in our case, with it being so much tied to the death side of things, we really were trying to get ahead. We were trying to get and keep the town safe, which is why we turned to mass burials, because unfortunately we could not keep up with the numbers that were dying. Okay. And you got to remember, it's not just the numbers that were dying, but they were drawing the wild animals into city limits. And that created even bigger problems and more disease. It wasn't all related to the same thing. Everybody that died that year, over those 5 years, did not die from the Black Death. There was a staggering amount that died from other things, but were never recorded. They were just simply, okay, you died, bury it. Okay. It was a question of we had to get them off, and you couldn't burn everybody because there would have been so much oily smoke in the air. It would have caused even bigger problems, which is why we went to the mass graves. But we did eventually get through it. Now, back then, there was no communication. Okay, I mean, you had communication, but it could be weeks before you heard from somebody. This is part of why it took so long to get around, for people to get word on how to solve the problem. Okay, in today's world, communication is a very open door. Okay, if it weren't for technology, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. Okay, you wouldn't be able to watch this, which may be a bonus. I don't know. Okay, but that said, if you do like the video, give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel, and please pass it on to everybody. Because the reality of it is, I came back to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to spread this word that working together we can make this a better world for most people. But it's going to require the effort of the greater majority of us. I'm no different than you are. Okay, I've got different traits, different abilities. In my case, I remember a great number of my past lives. I think I've documented 18 of them at this point. Okay, and that's just the 18 on this planet. Okay, which is what that's part of. Well, that's one of the books that I'm in the process of writing. I haven't gone very far with it, but then I'm writing 32 at the same time. Okay, part of what I'll be doing today is that stack of files that I showed you. Where the heck is it? I keep forgetting. Way back there. Way over there on top of my calendar table. Okay. I've got a whole stack of files on different books I'm in the middle of writing. Different notes that are being taken for all of them. So I can get them all out. Well, I'm scheduled to get 5 out this year. 2 of which are now in the printers or already in print. Okay. Very important little factor from that standpoint. Because of that, we are taking a look at the world, at the reality of this world being a much better world if we work together. But it's going to take your effort as well as mine. It's going to take focusing on what is working and realizing that pointing the finger at anybody is not going to help. The real drawback here is if you go way back to the beginning of civilization, religion taught people to be afraid of everything, including death. Well, I'll tell you, we were some fearful when the Black Death hit. Okay, there was a lot of struggle. Everybody talking about the end of the world. Well, I think every other year we get somebody talking about the end of the world. With the Black Death, there was a staggering number of young adults or older children that were left without parents. Okay, because the Black Death itself did not differentiate. It took everybody. Right? It did not just go after the weak. It went after every single person available. Okay. In my case, why I ended up immune to that, I don't know, but I seem to have carried it on. Because right now, if we take out of the equation, we take out the heart attack I had a few years ago. Well, the stroke I had 3 years ago, the massive heart attack that I had back in 2013, which would be 9 years ago, and then 2 minor tooth infections over that same period. Take those out, and I haven't been ill in a quarter of a century, which means more than half my life I haven't been sick for. Not complaining. Don't know how I managed it entirely, aside from the definitive belief structure that, frankly, I don't have time for it. Therefore, I focus on my energy level staying high, on my health staying solid, despite the fact I've got an atrocious diet. But then I never took a course in nutrition at all. I have, by the way, paid more attention to my diet since I had the stroke. But things are coming along. But we've got to, if you happen to be building yourself as a spiritual guide or as a religious leader, it is absolutely time to stop talking in terms of how much fear is there. You've got to fear this, you've got to fear that. If you don't do this, you're going to hell. Well, hell's a wonderful place to hang around. Trust me, the hot tubs are way too hot. But, when people talk about this idea, if you die, you're going to hell. Well, a couple of things that I look at. One, and I forget where it is, but there is a town, if you look it up on the internet, I'm sure you can find it. There is a town by the name of Hell. Just kind of curious whether or not I can actually find it before I run out of before this particular video is done. So I'm just going to type it in here and see. Nope, that's not it. Where are we? Type in the name Hell, and where are we here? How about if we type in City Hell? No, I'm not going to spend my time. Oh, there we are. There is a city named Hell. There we go. And the city, there is a city. So somebody tells you when you die you're going to hell, understand. There is hell is an unincorporated community in Livingston County in the United States, state of Michigan. So if all the dead go there, that could be an interesting city to visit. You ever talk about going and seeing a haunted house? Well, if everybody that dies goes there, it's wonderful. Should be a lot of interesting people. The other thing that I learned a long time ago, I heard that during the Civil War, if you died during the Civil War, they would only bury you in like a 2-foot grave. Primarily, that seemed to be to stop the wild animals again, right? But the term I heard for it, that 2-foot grave, was referred to as hell. So remember, okay, especially if you've got a lot of people around you, Hell can be a lot of fun, and we can get into that in another day. Because right now we're down to the last minute and a half here, so I'm just going to tie this off. I will be back again tomorrow. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.